Joe Pugh for Boxing UK in association with Supreme CBD for the first time in a couple of weeks, joined here today at Richard's Buatsi launch press conference by the man himself, Mr. Eddie Hearn. How are you, Eddie?
Very well, thank you, sir.
Let's get straight into it. Craig Richards, Joshua Buatsi, fantastic domestic fight. We've seen Arthur Yard twice. We're now getting another brilliant light heavyweight domestic clash.
Yeah, we know they work. You know, we know all great domestic fights work. This is a bit different. It's a domestic fight between two world-class light heavyweights, and I think that we need to make sure that we make more fights like this. You've seen with the success of Smith against Fowler. I know it was Britain against Ireland with Conlan against Wood, but these are just the fights that we want to see. Both fighters with their own fan bases, two guys from Croydon. How obvious is it? And it's a really, really good fight, May 21st, and looking forward to it.
I'm sure you'd agree they're two very respectable guys outside the ring, but I think you could tell on that face-off that neither of them wanted to come away.
They respect each other and they've known each other for many years, but they both think they're going to win the fight. I think Craig maybe feels like he's not disrespected, but kind of lived in the shadow. It's always been Buatsi's been the focus for Matchroom, and I think Buatsi probably feels like, well, Eddie knows the Sims is and he's trained with, so he's got AJ managing it. I don't know, but at the end of the day, you have to all cut the bullshit aside and say this is a great fight. And when you make the fight, then you start realising, well, how can we not make this fight earlier? This is the kind of fight. All these light heavyweights are queuing up for a shot at the world title, but then it's not there. Bivol's fighting Canelo, Beterbiev's fighting Joe Smith. We made a massive offer to Anthony Yard to fight Buatsi, but he wanted to wait. And why? Make the money, be in great fights.
I just spoke to Josh and he said after Richards, he's holding you to your word that there will be a world title fight next.
Listen, it could be against Canelo Alvarez, because Canelo Alvarez wants to fight in Britain or in Mexico in December. And if he's going to fight in Britain, you've got John Ryder, who's mandatory at 168, and you've got the winner of this fight, who's going to be mandatory at 175. So these guys are queuing up, and Josh is right. Domestic fights are great, but what you don't want to do is have 3 or 4 of them, because this is kind of like the perfect fight for both guys before the shot at the world title.
Moving on, I spoke to Frank Warren last week at the Avanesian Mets press conference, and he...
Trick fight, that was.
We'll get to that. And he weren't best pleased. He weren't best pleased about the sparring footage being released between AJ and Joe Joyce, and he demanded that the Dubois AJ sparring footage was released. Do you know anything about this Dubois AJ sparring footage?
I know that AJ didn't release the sparring footage. I don't know anything about the other footage. I think he needs to just relax. I think that someone's got to sit him down and say, look, it's been 12 years now this has been going on. That's when I started. This infatuation, this frustration, this anger. And at some point, if this was, I think Frank's 70, early 70s or whatever it is, like similar to my dad, I would be saying to my dad, you need, either you got to pack it in or you got to relax, because this ain't good for anybody. So, and you end up, again, I'm not just having digs about Avanesian Mets, but if I put that fight on as a main event, I would get absolutely lynched. It was abysmal. And, the viewing figures are abysmal for that fight and his last fight as well. So, I just don't know. He's, for 10 or 12 years, he's been talking about me non-stop, waking up in the morning, wondering what I'm doing, and going to bed at night, wondering what I'm doing. That's not healthy. So, I don't know the answer or the solution, but I hope there's peace.
Do you think when you're 70 years older, do you think...
See, if you think that I'm standing up here doing interviews with you at 70, you can go fuck yourself. Mate, no way. No way. You see all these people. Do you know how angry people are in boxing? Bob Arum, Frank Warren. I see it all the time, every day. Boxing ruins you. The boxing business. I will be on a beach, I'll be playing a little bit of cricket, I'll be having a game of golf, I'll be watching boxing. I love boxing, it will never leave my life, but I'll be a fan, and I'll look back on the business and I'll go, like my dad does. People say, oh, your dad left boxing. Yeah, you know what, best thing he ever done. He's the happiest man in the world, has been for many, many years. And by the way, picked up darts, picked up snooker, and his son went up and smashed the boxing game anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But horrible business, horrible favour.
Just last one on Frank. I just find it so crazy, like that you've never actually met him, like because boxing is quite a small world. Like everyone in this room, we all speak to each other.
I've met Frank's son. We get on really well. Like, he's been at shows, like, you know, of course, there's rivalry in the family. Probably don't really like me, but we'll have a beer, whatever. And people tell me Frank's great to have a bit of dinner with, whatever. But it's just I send the videos, right? I see people send me the Frank Warren videos, going, mate, he's lost it. Have you seen this one? I forward them to all my mates, going, watch this one. His head's fallen off. And it's like a running joke, but I guess it's good for the sport, you know, because it keeps people talking.
From one promoter to another, then we see Don King. No, Jesus Christ! From one promoter,
Don King won the Trevor Bryan purse bid. Yeah, we'll see.
Could you be working with him in the future? Get Don King, a little Eddie Hearn Don King mix up.
Yeah, I've fallen out with Don King a few times. Yeah. We'll see. Never say never.
Never say never in boxing, certainly not. Quickly moving on to AJ, then you declared, I think, a couple of days ago that it's now likely that the Usyk fight's now back on. We've seen Lomachenko kind of pull out of the Kambosos fight. Is this still the case, or are we now going back to an interim fight?
Now we're front runners. Now that Lomachenko's out, it's very nice to George Kambosos, but we've been there ready to go all the time. So we received an offer last night. We're going through it. And we'll talk, and hopefully we can get that fight made ASAP.
Does this mean that there's again question marks over Usyk AJ though?
Like seeing that last night for Lomachenko, I actually felt quite confident the fight would happen, but now I've seen that, you have to question whether it will happen. So we need answers, you know, we need to know, so we'll see what happens.
When is the cut-off point for you to say we need a fight?
Really? You know, I'd like to know at the end of this week.
And just a final few quick ones. Derek Chisora versus Andy Ruiz Jr. What a great fight that'd be if you could make it.
I think they'll do Ruiz-Ortiz, which is a very good fight. I'd like to make the Areola fight, but we'll see what's next for Derek.
Who could you potentially see Derek fighting?
Areola, I think, is the fight. I think it's a good, fun fight. Two guys that would need to win that fight to progress, and we'll see what happens.
And unfortunately, a clash between Demetrius Andrade and Parker. Obviously, a little bit of a conflict in interest as you promote Andrade. Is that not great, is it?
No, but last week you saw a Frank Warren show, a UFC show, a Pro Bellum show. This weekend, Sky have announced the show on the same night as Warrington against Martinez. I don't think it's people trying to be clever. I just think that's when your broadcaster wants to go. That's when the venue was available for where you want to be. And unfortunately, just got to try your best to do the best show you can.
And last one, Eddie, at the UFC, I've been hearing your interviews all day about you cropping out Fraser Clark. Just why did you crop him out?
Genuinely, I've said, I looked really good in the photo and I zoomed in because I wanted a bigger close-up. And as I zoomed in, I had to lose a man. And AJ was on the other end. I weren't going to lose AJ from the picture. So Fraser's, not with us, and I love Fraser, but man down. It had to be Fraser Clark. We had to lose a man from the picture for the zoom in. Because if you look at it, I look really well.
All for the gram, yeah?
All for the gram. That's exactly right.
And we'll see the little mask of Fraser put Ben Shalom. So looks-wise, is it Ben Shalom versus you?
As young as Ben Shalom or as handsome. But look, I thought it was a good comeback.
Yeah. Eddie, cheers very much. Speak to you soon.